Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we use your stack of sources to give you the knowledge shortcut.
Hey there.
Today, we are diving deep into one of the most compelling regional business battles happening anywhere in the world. We're talking about the fight for e-commerce dominance across the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC.
And this isn't just about who sells the most widgets. Not at all. This is a strategic clash between the global scale of Amazon and the locally entrenched high-stakes maneuvering of Noon.
The Saudi and Emirati-backed champion.
Exactly.
We've synthesized a mix of competitive intelligence, some academic studies, including some really fascinating theories on logistics, and a lot of direct, real-world consumer feedback. Our mission is pretty clear.
Yeah.
We need to get our heads around the playbook local players are using to fight these global behemoths.
Mm-hmm. And a big part of that is why the ground game, so logistics and cultural adaptation, is just absolutely central to the success.
And maybe most importantly, how this intense competition is rapidly accelerating the adoption of massive new technologies, like embedded fintech, across the entire Middle East.
And really, if you want to understand this whole rivalry, you have to start where it got political. Because this collision of ideologies, it went public in a very dramatic fashion back in 2018.
Okay, let's unpack this political flashpoint. This whole saga, it really kicked off when Mohammed Alibar, he's the founder of Noon and chairman of the powerhouse Emaar Properties.
Right.
He openly declared war on global competitors like Amazon. He explicitly labeled them a threat to the local economy.
And it was way more than just rhetoric. Alibar proposed a specific and very controversial policy. He called for the government to impose a law requiring 51% ownership by local companies or individuals.
Wait, 51% ownership in all foreign e-commerce companies?
And all of them.
Mm-hmm.
E-commerce, logistics, and payments companies operating in the country. The whole stack.
Wow. I mean, that is pretty much the textbook definition of protectionism. You're just asking the government to build a wall around the local player.
Exactly. And the backlash from the regional tech and investment community was, it was swift. Because that proposal, it hit several very sensitive nerves all at once.
So first there was the consumer critique, which was quite blunt.
Yeah. Critics immediately said, look, this kind of policy would just harm UAE consumers. It limits their choices, it could raise prices, and it stifles innovation. It was basically framed as an admission that Noon just couldn't compete with global players on its own merits.
And then you had the economic leaders chime in, right?
Yeah.
Pointing to the larger goal of attracting foreign investment.
Precisely. The argument was, and it still is, that the UAE needs to attract international capital and expertise, not actively put up these huge regulatory barriers. The region should be fostering its real competitive advantages, like amazing infrastructure, instead of, hiding behind policy.
And they had examples to back that up?
They did. They pointed to successful regional companies like Uber, Careem, Talabat, who all, ironically, succeeded by pushing for less regulation, not more.
But here's where the sources suggest the narrative really began to fall apart for him. The irony of Alibar's own business interests.
Oh, yeah. This part is fascinating. We found sources highlighting that he himself holds investments in foreign-controlled groups.
Like the luxury e-commerce giant Yolks Net-a-Porter Group.
Which competes directly with an Emirati group, Onus.
So he's investing in the foreign competition.
And that's not all. He also holds stakes in regional VC firms. Firms that invest in fast-growing fintechs like Hyperpay and The Luxury Closet. And neither of those companies adheres to that strict 51% local ownership rule he was pushing for.
That suggests a philosophy of, regulation for my competitors, but not necessarily for my own portfolio.
It makes for a very challenging double standard.
I think the core argument against the whole idea was best summed up by an analogy we found.
The Emirates one.
That's the one.
It was powerful. They said real companies don't call for protectionism because their own competitiveness protects them. Take Emirates as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The message was just crystal clear. If you can't win the political battle, you have to go out and decisively win the operational battle.
Which means the rivalry moves from that ministerial meeting room right down to the consumer's doorstep.
Yeah.
So let's shift to that ground game. If you, the listener, are shopping today, what are the actual tangible differences between the two giants? Let's start with the loyalty programs based on 2024 data.
Okay, so Amazon Prime, globally recognized, costs around 140 AED annually. And its key benefits are really its massive strength. Not just free next-day UAE delivery, but crucially, that free and fast international shipping on eligible orders from Amazon US and UK.
Right, and you get the digital media bundle, Prime Video, Prime Gaming, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. Then you have Noon VIP. It costs slightly more, 149 AED annually, but it offers a quarterly payment option which is more flexible.
And their focus is completely different. It's laser targeted at local speed and spending incentives.
Totally. Noon VIP gives you free express shipping, and that often means same day or next day delivery, even without a minimum purchase. It's aggressive. You also get exclusive discounts and, importantly, Noon Pay rewards. That's cash back you can spend instantly on the platform.
That's such a fascinating split. Amazon is all about global access and entertainment. Noon is all about local speed and getting money back to spend again. But where do they actually succeed or fail in the customer experience?
The feedback from customers is really revealing. Amazon is consistently praised for superior delivery accuracy. They'll commit to an exact date, sometimes even a time window.
Whereas Noon is often criticized for that vaguer today-tomorrow window, which, can be frustrating if you need to plan your day around a delivery.
Exactly. Amazon also seems to win on post-sale support. Easier, no questions asked returns, reliable chat services, and that global store. It's still a major competitive moat for Amazon. Being able to get niche imports with cheap shipping is a huge deal.
But the sources suggest Noon found the exact weak spot in Amazon's armor, and that's high-frequency, perishable categories.
Absolutely. Noon Daily, their grocery vertical, is their masterpiece of local adaptation. Customers rave that Noon Daily uses refrigerated vans to keep items properly cold.
Which is a massive competitive edge when temperatures routinely get over 45 degrees Celsius.
It's huge. Amazon often struggles with the infrastructure for consistent cold chain logistics in that kind of climate.
It's brilliant. So Amazon is delivering my global imports, but Noon is making sure my ice cream doesn't melt in the heat. That's a tangible, high-impact competitive edge.
It is. However, Noon does get some criticism. Users point out that Noon sometimes applies shipping fees for bulky items, even for their VIP members.
Oh, that would be annoying.
Yeah, it feels a bit arbitrary compared to Prime's more inclusive free delivery policy. It's just friction where Amazon has a smoother process.
This whole operational discussion, it brings us directly to something called the local logistics advantage, or LLA theory. The sources say this is the absolute backbone of Noon's strategy.
LLA is essential to understanding how any local player can survive against a company with Amazon's resources. The theory states that regional companies can achieve massive operational efficiency by building logistics networks that are specifically suited to local infrastructure.
So things like traffic patterns and unique consumer behaviors, stuff a global playbook might miss.
Exactly.
I'm curious about that, though. That LLA theory sounds good on paper, but hasn't Amazon proven over and over that sheer scale and unlimited cash eventually just overwhelm local knowledge?
Yeah.
Where's the defense for LLA against a giant like that?
The defense is in density and speed, and those two things translate directly into cost savings and customer retention. Noon's market share growth is built on a convenience-first approach. They're focusing on these extremely dense networks of dark stores and fulfillment centers that are integrated deep within urban areas.
Okay, but that local knowledge lets them make aggressive promises.
Right, like Noon Minutes, which commits to a consistent 15-minute fulfillment standard. Amazon is still building up that kind of localized density. This is LLA allowing Noon to leverage proximity to just plain out deliver them.
So the argument is that a hyper-optimized local network can, at least for now, defeat global scale in a place where infrastructure is still evolving.
That's the competitive thesis. But that speed and logistics efficiency, that only gets you halfway there. The sources really emphasize that localization has to extend beyond delivery vans. It has to go right into the app's interface.
And what does right mean for a Middle Eastern consumer when it comes to app design? This isn't just about translating English into Arabic, is it?
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
This is where cultural sensitivity becomes a real competitive moat. The fundamental rule is that because Arabic text flows right to left, the entire digital geography of the application has to be mirrored.
Mirrored.
Yeah. Navigation menus shift to the right, progress bars fill from right to left, icon arrangements have to reflect that orientation. If you miss this, the app just feels alien and clunky to native users.
Wait, so this isn't just a technical detail. The entire mental map of how the app flows has to flick.
Precisely. And the cultural subtleties go even deeper. Research shows that Arab countries score high on both power distance and uncertainty avoidance.
Okay, what does that mean in practical terms?
It means users might be reluctant to openly criticize a product during beta testing. Or they might just abandon a confusing app without ever telling you why.
So it makes gathering accurate user data extremely difficult.
It does. You need design specialists who can interpret nonverbal cues and just anticipate needs. You can't just rely on standard A/B testing.
So you have to trust instinct and deep cultural understanding more.
Absolutely. Even color choices are strategic. White signifies purity or peace. Blue often represents protection and trust, and green is strongly linked to prosperity and Islamic tradition. And finally, since mobile devices just dominate internet use in the region, the most important buttons, the primary actions, they have to be placed correctly on the right side of the screen for right-handed users.
So every single design choice is a cultural decision.
It is.
The hyperlocal logistics and the deep cultural fit. That's how the local champion fights. Now let's widen the lens a bit, because this competition happened against the backdrop of a massive economic shift.
Right, we're talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. It acted as a massive digital accelerator. The pace of change was just breathtaking. Sources show MENA e-commerce grew 52% between 2020 and 2021 alone, hitting $22 billion in gross merchandise value.
Wow.
That boom created an urgent need for better logistics and, crucially, a complete transformation of financial services.
Yeah, for years, the e-commerce market in the GCC struggled with a fundamental trust issue, which led to the dominance of cash on delivery, or COD.
People were hesitant to pay online, low credit card penetration, a lack of faith the goods would actually show up.
And Kai persisted because of that trust deficit.
It did. But the pandemic forced this huge overnight behavioral shift. The fear of spreading the virus through cash was real. Saudi Arabia even banned COD temporarily in some situations.
And so consumers who were forced to pay digitally found that businesses, especially in new areas like e-grocery,
They could reliably deliver. E-grocery in the UAE, for example, grew 300% during that time.
so an immediate health crisis forced the adoption of digital trust, where years of marketing had completely failed.
Precisely. The dependence on Salou just plummeted. It still exists, but today it only accounts for about a third of payments in online grocery sales. It was a massive, permanent behavioral change that just opened the floodgates for the next wave of financial technology.
And that brings us to Section 3, the future of finance. We're talking embedded fintech. What exactly is that, and what's the size of the opportunity here?
So embedded fintech is the seamless integration of financial services. We're talking payments, lending, insurance, directly into non-financial customer journeys.
Okay, break that down.
Think of it this way. You're not going to a bank's website anymore. The bank comes to you, built right into the app you already use for shopping or travel.
That growth rate you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
this market is shifting from an outlier to an essential investment thesis basically overnight.
It's exponential. The GCC embedded fintech market is forecast to grow from about $250 million in 2022 to over $2 billion by 2030. That's a 30% annual growth rate.
What's driving that massive growth can't just be consumer demand.
No, it's a combination of three big factors. First, you have regulatory enablement. Bahrain pioneered open banking way back in 2017, which set the stage for easier data sharing. Second, you have technology providers offering what's called banking as a service, or BOSS.
Which makes it simple for a non-financial company like Noon to offer financial products.
Exactly. And third, the region still has a large underbanked population that benefits immensely from these low-friction digital tools.
So regulatory changes mean Noon can stop being just a store and start acting more like a bank, offering micro-lending or payment services.
That's the power of embedded finance. And this technology, it's predicted to have the strongest disruptive impact on corporate lending over the next 5 years, using tools like buy now, pay later, but integrated directly into a company's ERP system for B2B transactions.
It links financing directly to commerce, seamlessly.
Right. And we see the e-commerce giants using this to transform into super apps.
Leveraging the high-frequency nature of their platform.
Exactly. Platforms like Careem and Noon are integrating payment and lending to offer a mobility of people, things, and money. Careem, for example, saw a 900% increase in customers using multiple services once they rolled out their super app.
The platform becomes sticky. It handles everything from ordering food to sending money. Okay, finally, let's look at how Noon is taking this playbook and trying to apply it internationally. We sourced information on their aggressive expansion into complex markets, like Egypt.
Egypt is a classic high-risk, high-reward market. You have currency volatility, but you also have this massive, talented labor force. Noon's strategy there is aggressive. They're using a polycentric staffing policy, so hiring local employees to drive operations.
And their entry method.
They chose a strategic alliance over a joint venture or a subsidiary. It minimizes their immediate capital commitment.
And their operational approach internationally is a crucial point for our final thought. They are adopting a global standardization strategy.
That's the plan. Despite the massive local variation they face, Noon intends to keep the same marketing, the same platform, the same core logistics products across these new markets. They want to standardize their operations to achieve efficiency of scale, much like Amazon's global model.
So, what does this entire deep dive ultimately tell us? This rivalry between Amazon and Noon is just a masterclass in modern competition.
It really is. It's not just about the lowest price anymore.
No, it's about achieving deep operational efficiency through that local logistics advantage, making sure the ice cream stays cold, and making massive strategic leaps with embedded fintech and the super app model.
And for you, the learner, the implication is direct. This competition dictates how fast your package arrives, how reliable that delivery is, and what kinds of financial services you can access seamlessly outside of traditional banking.
Whether that's a new payment option on your shopping app or micro-lending for a small business, it's a phenomenal struggle.
It is, between the efficiency of the global playbook and the absolute necessity of the local ground game.
And that brings us to our final thought. If Noon's success today is built entirely on the local logistics advantage, that intensely local cultural fit and operational specificity, how successfully can they rely on that local reality before it clashes with their stated goal of implementing a global standardization model as they aggressively expand across the region?
It is the ultimate test of globalization versus localization, and the e-commerce battlefield of the Middle East is where we are going to see that tension play out over the next few years.